everybody, Chelsea here with my very first Sims 4 speed build. Today I'll be making the hidden Hermit Cottage, which is available for download in the Sims 4 gallery, and you can find it by using hashtag thesimscribe. For this build, I was inspired by fantasy cottages and old hidden away cabins, the kind of houses you'd see tucked in the mountains or seated amongst rolling hills. Just a side note, this lot is actually being built on Hindquarters Hideaway, not Dawson's Creek like it shows in the video. I really love building on this lot in Bridleton Bay because it feels like one of the most tucked away lots that you can use. We don't really have a lot of rural, hidden away, residential lots that you can use, and I just prefer this one because it feels so tucked away with a lot of trees and big boulders, and it makes a really good spot for building things like this, little cottages, little cabins, things like that. So that's why I'm building it here today. Of course, you can use it on any lot with the same dimensions. That's totally up to you. I just prefer putting it here and using any sort of outdoorsy lots over this way. I just recently purchased the Get Together pack, mainly for the wall textures and the doors and windows because it just has that Dutch cottage vibe, and I really wanted to have those. I pretty much bought it just for all of the build items. I don't really know if I'm going to do much with the clubs. I wasn't really interested in that to begin with, but I'll give it a try during some of my gameplays, but I primarily got it specifically for all of the build mode items that are really just so beautiful, perfect for cottages, fantasy homes. It's just so beautiful. I absolutely love it. Funny thing about this video is I was able to build this house relatively quickly because I built it before. I realized after I had finished the entire build and taken screenshots and everything that I didn't have my video software with the correct settings. So the video captures that I got were so laggy, so janky, and choppy that it was completely unusable. Could not salvage anything from it. So finally figured everything out, and after maybe an hour or so just scouring the internet and YouTube, I finally found one video that had just the answer that I was looking for. So here it is. I do apologize that it is a little bit fuzzy. I was able to get it to record everything nice and smooth. However, I ended up having it record at the wrong resolution. So there was just a bunch of black space around the video. So once I cropped that, it enlarged the actual gameplay and it's a little bit fuzzy. So I will absolutely have that fixed by my next build video, so it'll be nice and crisp and clean for you guys. So here I'm starting to build my pond. I love putting ponds on these kind of lots because they just look so beautiful and it adds such a layer of realism and just makes the landscape look so much nicer. I use the fountain tool to build most of my ponds. I know some people use the pool tool to make theirs, and I will be doing that in a couple of my future builds. I have some swamp and bayou ideas and some tropical ideas where a natural body of water may actually have a ladder going into it so your Sims can go in and swim around and explore. I usually just use a bunch of rocks and grass to hide the edges so it looks like a natural pond. I raise it down a little bit because we do have terrain tools now. Unfortunately, we don't actually have a pond tool that came along with them for whatever reason. But I just try to cover the entire perimeter so it looks nice and natural and you don't see the harsh edges. I'm just filling it in with some lily pads and some algae, and there you go. Beautiful little pond there. I absolutely love doing landscaping in The Sims. I'm not entirely sure why, but it's just always so much fun for me to put all of the plants out, make it look as organic and natural as possible. And it's just so much fun making, especially these kind of lots where there's just a bunch of trees and a bunch of plants all over the place, make it look really as realistic as possible. I absolutely love using these grass objects because I feel like it just adds that extra little bit to the lot that makes it pop and makes it really look a bit more realistic. Because obviously, you know, the ground is green, there is grass on this lot, but just having the actual tufts makes it just a little bit nicer. If you don't already know, I do have a Facebook page and an Instagram, both under the same name, thesimscribe. And any of my builds are going to be available on the Sims 4 gallery. Just use hashtag thesimscribe and you'll be able to find them all. And right here, I'm just making a little fenced-in box for the mailbox and the trash can. I did end up cutting that out because my game lagged a little bit during this part. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but I just cut that out because it was a little too janky for me to put in. So you can see it back there, and you'll see in the screenshots what I ended up doing. I'm just putting some vines and ivy on the chimney. It makes it look a little bit more old and a little bit more lived in, unkempt, and sort of being reclaimed by nature a bit, which is kind of the idea that I had for whoever would be living here. I imagine that even the elders of the town don't know when this building was made. It has just always been here, and there's always just been like one person living here at a time, usually by themselves, not really having a lot of visitors. As you'll see in a little bit, it is very small inside. You may be able to fit in a family of 2, but it's going to be very tight squeeze and very close together. And I just imagine that the sim who lives here loves nature, maybe has a bit of a green thumb, which is why I left the back left corner of the lot empty. In case you want to have your sim build a garden back there, there's enough space to do that. They don't have to have a green thumb, they just maybe love nature a lot and want to escape from the hustle and bustle of the town. So they chose to live here in this super old looking cottage that time seems to just slow down, and you're encouraged to just go at your own pace, just as nature does, everything in its own time. And back there I just put some firewood and a wood cutting log because there is a fireplace inside, or at least there will be in a couple minutes. So I wanted your Sims to have a place to, not that they can, but a place that you would chop the wood, and a clothes drying line because the most advanced amenity that I put in this house is a washing machine. Ooh, so futuristic. So back here on the back deck, I'm just putting a bunch of potted plants. Again, I've wanted this place to feel like whoever's living here has an affinity for plants and probably prefers their company more than the company of other Sims. You can probably fit a couple animals in this house. I wouldn't recommend any large dogs, although there is a good amount of yard for them to run in, so it might be okay. And I noticed here that the windows, at least on the interior, were flush with the roof, so I just raised up the height of the walls by 1, because on the outside the windows are exactly where I want them to be. They're sitting right above that stone foundation, and that looks perfectly right to me, but on the inside they were flush with the ceiling, and I don't really like the way that looks, so I just changed it a bit. And I do delete the second floor on half of it so that you're able to see those nice stained glass windows. I kind of imagine that maybe in its original iteration, this house was originally maybe a church or a chapel or something, and that's why there are some stained glass windows left, not on the entire build, but in some spots that they were preserved. So as you can see, it is a very small interior. I make one room, and that ends up being the bathroom. You'll see in a bit what I end up doing as far as sleeping quarters. I've done it in a couple of my builds so far, like with cabins and things like that, where it's really just a one-person room. And I just make sure that the bathroom itself is at least closed off, so in case your sim does have company, everybody can do their business in privacy and not have to shoo everybody out of the house itself, because that would be just very inconvenient. I was playing around with the idea of building an outhouse here, but I'm thinking of saving that for a more rural, old farm cabin idea that I've been tossing around in my brain. So here I have a bit of an issue with curtains in The Sims 4 for some reason. I don't have all of the game packs yet, so I'm probably missing out on some things, but I always have a difficult time finding the curtains that look good with each window. But for this one, the front window doesn't have any shutters on it, so I figured I'd put those curtains there so you can just draw them back and get to see the beautiful view that's out there. But if you want your privacy, you can just close them and tie them shut. Now, I absolutely love this high back armchair. I use it in almost every single one of my personal builds because I'm almost always making some loner's cabin, nature baby's oasis, something like that. And this armchair just always feels so comfy, cozy to me. It came with the Cats and Dogs expansion, and I've used it in every build since I've gotten that expansion. That's not to say that there were hundreds of builds or anything like that, but almost every build that I've played in has had that chair in some color somewhere, usually by the fireplace or by a bookcase. And I did decide to put just a small TV in the corner here. I figured that's probably the extent of this Sims technological grasp on things, is just to have a little cable TV. Probably doesn't get good reception, but it's something to do when you've run out of books on a rainy day. And here I just tried desperately to get these candles to fit on that shelf on the fireplace. It had been really hot here where I live for about a week or two, so I think the heat was just getting to me and I couldn't figure it out for the longest time, but I managed to make it work. And in this little corner, I figured there's not a whole lot that you can fit in here, so I decided on a little reading nook with a chair that matches the couch. I do very much enjoy mismatching chairs, and I end up doing that in this build in a little bit with the dining table, or as much of a dining table as it is, and you'll see what I mean. But here I just wanted to put a bunch of plants indoors because I wanted it to reflect just how much this sim really appreciates nature and green things. And now I'm starting on making the sleeping corner, I guess you can call it. I just ended up using a bunch of folding screens just to close it off from the main area of the house, because this sim really doesn't have a lot of friends or a lot of people that they would consider inviting over, but I'm sure they know one or two people that will stop by from time to also escape the hustle and bustle of town. And I figured the sim would just maybe want their bed hidden away a little bit. And with folding screens, that's an easy way just to visually block something off from the rest of the house. And I end up resizing the bathroom so it's easier to fit a bed and a dresser back there. This is the second time I move this table with all of these plants, and I will be moving it a third time once I finally figure out what I want to do with this corner and how I want to make it work, because I end up putting a washing machine over there and just the whole laundry station as well, and I had to move around a lot of things to end up making it work. Luckily, this is a speed build, so you guys don't have to sit through the probably 30 to 40 minutes I spent just finagling the laundry corner with the bedroom stuff and the table of plants. And up here I absolutely love this item, just the little rack of tea bags, because anyone who knows me knows that I absolutely love tea. I have an entire cabinet of it at home, and I, drink it every single day, several times a day, and it's just something that I absolutely love. So once I saw that item, I absolutely had to use it in almost all of my builds. It's so cute, and I feel like it's just perfect for a cozy cabin, because you don't really need to wake up early and have your morning coffee and get going. You can wake up when you do, put the kettle on, have some tea on the back porch, and just listen to the forest wake up. It just sounds so perfect and so wonderful. So here I do finally manage to get this corner all settled and arranged. I do put this I love the broom and dustpan. It's just so cute. It's such a nice clutter item to put in there that just gives it a little bit more of a real feel to the house. I absolutely love putting clutter items everywhere. I just really like to make all of my builds feel as if they're lived in and usable, and that the Sims that end up there really do feel at home and really do feel like it's a usable space. I absolutely love these little cafe tables. I use them all the time in my small builds for the dining area, I guess you can sort of call it. And I always love to use mismatched chairs, especially in these kind of builds, because I feel like the sim that lives here probably hasn't ever been to a department store before and just gets all of their stuff from maybe yard sales or Goodwills or whatever. So whenever they feel up for going into town or walking around the neighborhood on maybe a Sunday afternoon, when all of the yard sales are going on, she just says, "Ooh, I like that chair. I'm taking that home with me," and that's where it ends up. So I put some of these cracks and tears and things in the walls because it's one of those houses where you don't really fix anything unless it's actually broken. If it's not working, if it's detrimental, then it gets fixed. If it's just aesthetic or if it's just cosmetic, doesn't need to get fixed. It's perfectly fine and functional the way it is. It adds character, it adds history, and that's fine with whoever's living here. So I don't know what happened over here. I seem to have completely ignored that I put a wall sconce there and just put picture frames with it. But if you do download this build from the gallery, I did fix that before I uploaded it, so that's actually not there. And the bathroom is a slightly bit different as well. I ended up moving, I believe it was the sink, to the opposite wall. Once I put everything in there, it seemed a little too closed off, and it might actually be a little bit of a problem to play. Your Sims might not be able to get in or out and move around as freely as you'd want them to. So I just changed that up before I put up the final upload, so that will be just slightly different, but it was because I wanted to make sure that this build was playable. And the bathroom is pretty much the last bit that I do on here. I wanted to keep it nice and simple. There's not a whole lot of room to work with. So I just, put up some towels and some mats and just exactly what you need. And that's the whole idea of this build, is it has everything that you need and no more, no less. That's it. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this build, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the SimScribe. Let me know what you think in the comments, along with suggestions for future builds. I'll see you all next time. Bye!